Yeah. So, because the food, the grains, coming from Krishna's mercy. So we should offer it to him first. Krishna is the first enjoyer. And then he continues to bless us so that we can have more grains and so forth. Okay, good. So, Augusta, you did your homework? You're next. See, everything depends on Krishna. If we please Krishna, then you don't have to worry about anything. But if you don't please Krishna, then a lot of problems.
Okay, so the first homework was read Bhagavad Gita 3.
Hold the microphone closer to your mouth.
The first homework was to read Bhagavad Gita 3.14 and explain how there are grains, rains, sacrifices, and prescribed duties. So, according to the verse, the prescribed duty was to perform sacrifices, and in so doing, the demigods through Vishnu would supply all the necessities, including grains and beans. So the human beings would perform the sacrifices not for the demigods but for Vishnu, and that was their prescribed duty. And then the demigods through Vishnu would give the necessities to the humans, which are grains and rains, like the verse says about how important they are.
Good.
And then
Go ahead.
And then the second homework was to read the Ishopanishad Mantra 14 and explain how to pacify nature. So in the verse it says that you should know the Supreme Personality of Godhead perfectly, as well as the material creation. So the whole creation is a part and parcel of Krishna. To pacify nature, you should know Krishna perfectly and worship him sincerely. Since you are worshipping Krishna, material nature, which is part of Krishna, will also be pacified.
Okay.
And then question 3 was look up inorganic chemicals. Inorganic chemicals are compounds that are usually ionic and are created when different elements are fused together, sometimes unnaturally. For example, salt is NaCl, which is sodium, carbon, and iodine when combined. And then...
Is that an inorganic chemical?
It's not inorganic, but I was just giving an example.
Yeah, it's an organic chemical.
Yeah.
Anything that has carbon in it, and oxygen, and nitrogen is an organic chemical.
And then question 4 was, what are some inorganic chemicals that we eat daily? So some inorganic chemicals that we eat are calcium carbonate, which is found in some milk and eggs, but we don't eat that. Teflon, which can be transferred from...
But we use it in toothpaste.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Teflon, which can be transferred from cooking appliances to the food while cooking. And magnesium hydroxide, which can sometimes be found in milk and can also be used as a home remedy for neutralizing stomach acid. And then question 5 was look up the Dust Bowl and its cause. So the Dust Bowl was a period of severe...
What? Your microphone went off.
It's on.
So question 5 was look up the Dust Bowl and its cause. The Dust Bowl was a period of severe dust storms that greatly damaged the ecology and agriculture of the American and Canadian prairies during the 1930s. Severe drought and the failure to apply dryland farming methods, which is a certain way to grow crops in barren and desert-like areas.
They do that in India. That's why the air quality in Delhi is so bad. After the harvest, they burn whatever is remaining in the field, and it creates a lot of smoke. And then that causes air quality to go down. Go ahead.
So, yeah. To prevent the... Yeah.
But wouldn't the cop just turn to ash?
What?
Wouldn't it just turn like ash?
Turn to ash. When you burn something, there's smoke.
Yeah, but then like they're trying to make more soil, right?
No. What they're trying to do is kill all the seeds that were not harvested. Instead of trying to pick them up one by one, because the next season they'll plant another plant. Let's say one season it's wheat, next season it could be soybeans. So, in order to make sure that the wheat seeds that fell on the ground and were not harvested don't mix in with the soybeans they're going to plant, right? So they burn whatever's remaining of the wheat, and hopefully they'll kill also the seeds, so that next year they'll plant the soybeans and they'll only have soybeans. They won't have any wheat mixed in with it. Okay, that's why they do that. Okay, you're talking about the Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
So now 1 second. It says here, inorganic chemicals. It's a class of substances encompassing all those that do not include carbon and its derivatives as their principal elements. However, carbides, carbonates, cyanates, and carbon disulfide are included in this class. So, yeah. And what are organic chemicals? Organic compounds are molecules associated with living organisms. These include carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, proteins, and so forth. What?
Salt.
Yes, and they have carbon and oxygen and nitrogen. And inorganic compounds do not contain carbon and are not derived from living matter. Okay? But there are a few that are considered inorganic that have carbon in them. But it's not the main part of it. But in general, inorganic chemicals don't have carbon in it. And organic chemicals have carbon and oxygen and nitrogen. So, the inorganic chemicals are usually made artificially. And therefore, many of them are toxic. And when they're thrown into rivers and on the land, it contaminates the rivers and the land. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, and then there was a drought which came in 3 waves in 1934, 1936, and 1939 to 1940. But some regions of the high plains experienced a drought for as many as 8 years. This also helped to start the Great Depression.
Yeah. See, the Depression was also influenced by the droughts and the dust and so forth. Okay? All right, so Ria's next. Did you answer all the questions?
I answered 4.
Okay.
Okay. The first question was explain how there were grains and rains, sacrifice, and prescribed duties.
Yes.
Food grains are produced by rains are produced by sacrifices, and sacrifices are born of prescribed duties.
What is a prescribed duty?
Like the duties that Krishna has ordered you to do.
Yeah, like for example.
Chanting.
Yes, that's one. Good.
By doing your prescribed duties, Krishna gets pleased, and when Krishna gets pleased, the devas get pleased and gives natural prosperity and natural gifts. How could you pacify
There's
nature?
natural prosperity and what?
Natural gifts.
Natural gifts, right? So you have natural prosperity, natural gifts, and natural law and spiritual laws. Who makes the natural laws?
Krishna.
Yeah. Who makes the spiritual laws?
Krishna.
Yes. Who makes the material laws?
People in this world.
Yeah, governments.
Governments.
Yeah, they're made up of people. You can't make any laws. Well, you can make a law in your house. You know, nobody's allowed to poop in the kitchen. You know. But okay, go ahead.
How can you pacify nature? You can pacify nature by doing your prescribed duties
Close the door.
and surrendering to Krishna. In Ishopanishad verse 14 it says, "It is the conditioned soul who tries to dominate material nature and is instead subjected to the laws of material nature and the sufferings of repeated birth and death."
So, when it says it is the person who's subjected to the laws of material nature, what does that mean?
The conditioned soul who's subjected to the laws of nature.
Yeah, what does the conditioned soul do that makes them subject to the laws of nature?
They try to break the laws of material nature.
Yeah, they do things that are not right. Like, for example, they kill cows and eat them. They engage in illicit activities. They kill people. Not only cows, they also kill people. And they break the four regulative principles. Okay? So when people do that, then you get reactions from nature. Nature's functioning under the control of who? Who's controlling nature?
Krishna.
Yeah, so when you violate the four regulative principles, Krishna punishes us to teach us that we're doing something wrong. But people are so stupid, they don't learn that. They don't understand that they're doing something wrong. They just keep doing it over and over again. Do people stop eating meat? No. The only reason people stop eating meat is because they might associate with devotees and realize that it's not the right thing to do, or sometimes the doctors say, "Oh, you shouldn't eat too much red meat. You can eat all the chicken you want, but not too much red meat." Well, chicken is also meat, right? It's also, you have to kill the chicken. So, but when you violate one or two or three or all four regulative principles, there's sinful reactions, whether you do it knowingly or unknowingly. Okay, and then natural laws. You're violating the natural laws, and you're also violating Krishna's law. Close the door. Close the door. Okay, go ahead. So there are basically two sets of laws. Krishna makes the first set, which is called spiritual laws and natural laws, and then people make the second set, which are called
Material law.
government laws, right? So do you have to follow both?
What?
Do you have to follow both sets of laws?
Just the first set.
No, you have to follow them both.
Well, you have to follow both, but like...
Yeah, well, if there's a law that says you should kill your baby, now you wouldn't follow that because that violates Krishna's law,
Yeah.
right? But if the government law is like you have to pay your taxes to the government, well, you have to follow that law, right? Okay, go ahead.
To pacify nature, though, you have to accept the spiritual laws and the natural laws.
Okay, good.
What inorganic chemicals are in food? Sodium.
What?
The inorganic chemicals in food.
What are inorganic chemicals?
Yeah, some
Okay.
of the inorganic chemicals.
Go ahead.
Sodium benzoate and potassium benzoate, often added to milk and meat products, drinks, low sugar products, and cereals. It causes headaches, stomach aches, and asthma attacks.
Very good.
Potassium.
Sodium benzoate and potassium benzoate.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're called preservatives. They put that in foods so they don't go bad. Write this down. It's for shelf stable.
Wait, what?
Shelf, SHELVE, shelf stable, to make the products shelf stable. What?
What do they put?
They put sodium benzoate, SODIUMBENZOTE, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, Z-O. No, it's Z-O-A-T-E.
ZOATE, sodium benzoate. So what is that? What does this mean? Shelf stable. Okay, we'll discuss when you open the deities. Haribo. Govinda. Yes, Krishna too.
Sometimes when I eat, like sometimes it's a snack or something, then I've
But as a what?
a snack.
A snack, yes.
Yeah. Sometimes at the end of it, there's like a little packet, and it says "Do not eat." Like, what is that?
There's a little what?
Like a little packet. Yeah.
A little what? A packet inside. Inside.
And it says "Do not eat."
No, because that's to control humidity. It's a synthetic salt type of chemical that absorbs humidity. So now see, anytime you have water contacting food, it's going to rot. It's going to go bad. So certain foods that are susceptible to become humidified easily, they put these little packets in it that have a certain type of inorganic salt. It's not necessarily natural salt. There are other types of salts. And those salts absorb humidity. So it keeps the food from going bad. See, the whole problem about industrially produced food is it has to be shelf stable. SHELF STABLE. So what does that mean? Shelf stable. Krishna 1.
It means that they keep some preservatives in it so it can be like the same for a long time.
Yes, it looks fresh and new. Actually, it's not. It's actually old and stale, but it's kept from rotting by these preservatives. Now, some preservatives are dangerous inorganic chemicals, like sodium benzoate. What happens when you eat sodium benzoate? And a lot of people eat it because unwittingly, unknowingly. You have probably eaten a lot of sodium benzoate unknowingly. That's why you always have to look at the ingredients of any packaged food before you eat it. So what happens is sodium benzoate ends up in your liver, and it doesn't kill you by eating it once, but over a long period of time, if you eat for 10, 20, 30 years, your liver captures all that sodium benzoate, and eventually you get liver cancer. Okay? So these are actually dangerous chemicals, but they put them in very small quantities to preserve the food. They're powerful preservatives, but eating that type of food, and it's usually junk food. So what's the difference between real food and junk food? Yes. Why is it unhealthy? It does have, yes, it can have chemicals in it, like sodium benzoate. It can have artificial colors in it. It can have artificial flavorings in it. And it can also be depleted of nutrition. It can be nutrition depleted. What does that mean? Write that word down. Nutrition depleted. 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 What does that mean? Nutrition depleted. Augustia. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Shaitan. Yeah. In other words, you're not really getting much vitamins and minerals. You might get some, but very little, because it's been processed so much, and there's no enzymes, there's no probiotic bacteria or anything like that. So therefore, it's nutrition depleted. That's why people get fat in America. By the way, they're predicting that by 2030, 80% of Americans will be fat. Right now, it's about, I think, 35% of the population is fat, overweight. In the next 10 years, it can go up to 80%. Now, why do people get fat? Eating all that junk food. Right. That's nutrition depleted. All right? Now, The opposite of that is called nutritionally dense. Write it down. Nutritionally dense food. Nutritionally, dense, D-E-N-S-C. Nutritionally dense food is food that has a lot of minerals and natural vitamins, not artificial vitamins, and enzymes, and sometimes even probiotic bacteria. So when you eat nutritionally dense food, you don't have to eat much and you don't feel hungry because your body gets everything it needs. But when you eat nutritionally depleted food, your body doesn't get all the minerals that you need. So even though you ate a lot, you feel like eating more. And that's why people get fat. They eat this food that's nutritionally depleted. It's usually processed food. Processed means they overcook it, and then they put too much salt as a preservative, or too much sugar as a preservative, or too much, or the other preservatives like sodium benzoate, potassium benzoate, and so forth. And it doesn't have much nutritional value. It tastes good, but it doesn't have much nutritional value. So then you keep eating and eating. Even though you ate a lot and your stomach is full, you still want to eat because your body is saying, I didn't get what I need today. I didn't get enough calcium. I didn't get enough B vitamins. I didn't get enough vitamin C. So eat some more. So people are eating. Put your hand over your mouth. So people are eating more and more. And that's why you're getting so many fat people. Okay? Now, is it bad to be fat? Well, it's not good. Some people are naturally fat, and it's their natural way. That's okay. No one should ever fat shame someone. What does that mean? Fat shame. Huh? What? Well, it's the same thing as body shame, yeah. Make someone feel bad because they're fat. Yeah?
I have an example.
Yeah. What? He called who? Who? He called him fat? You called him fat, Augusta?
A bunch of times, actually.
You're fat shaming. You're body shaming. Don't do that. It's not nice. Okay, so industrial production of food requires sometimes putting in these dangerous preservatives. Now, some manufacturers can avoid writing the names of the preservatives in the food by putting it in the packaging. Then they don't have to write down the name of the preservative in the food because they didn't put it in the food, they put it in the packaging. But it's just as dangerous. So sometimes, let's say you buy some breakfast cereal. It's called a cold cereal, right? You don't have to cook it. And when you open a box and you smell inside, it smells like a pharmacy. What's a pharmacy smell like? Medicines, right? So when you open up the box of cold cereal, and as soon as you open it, if you smell it, it'll smell like a pharmacy. Why? Yes. Not only in the box, there can be chemicals in the food also. They put chemicals on the box when they don't want to write down, they can legally say chemical free or preservative free, but they put the preservative in the box or in the packaging. Put your hand in front of your mouth. Show everyone what you just did. So everyone look at him. Show him what you just did. Does that look nice? So put your hand in front of your mouth, okay? We need someone to mouth shame people by taking a photograph of Agastya or anybody who opens their mouth without putting their hand over it. Mouth shaming is allowed in the class, in the temple. By the way, that is actually considered an offense against the deities. Okay, so, but there are different ways of preserving food. Like, for example, canned food. Like Campbell's mushroom soup. You ever eat Campbell's soups? Huh? You ever see these little red cans called Campbell's soups? They have mushroom soup, they have vegetable soup, they have all kinds of different soups. Well, canned food, there's a way of preserving food in cans. How is that? They cook it, they put a lot of salt in it, and then when they put it in the can, they draw the air out, so it's airtight. See, bacteria are carried through the air. So if you make an airtight container for the food, no bacteria and no humidity can get into the food, and if there's a lot of salt in it, then it's preserved. See, that's another way they preserve. But there's a lot of salt. But you don't notice the salt so much. Huh? Yeah, when you eat a lot of salt, if someone's diabetic, what do they tell them? Oh, no, if someone has high blood pressure, what do they say? Don't eat salt, right? If someone's diabetic, what do they say? Don't eat sugar. Why is salt and sugar bad for you? Because they're both nutrient depleted foods. The salt, all the good minerals in the salt has been taken out, and you have 100% sodium chloride, which is, when you take a lot of sodium chloride, you can die. And sugar is another nutrient depleted food, white sugar. If you eat too much of it, again, it can cause serious problems, health problems. Yes.
Wait, so when they make canned fruits, do they do the same thing but with sugar?
In canned fruits, they use corn syrup. Corn syrup is another junk ingredient. Yes?
Why is brown sugar?
Brown sugar is not much different than white sugar. It's also a processed sugar, but it's a little bit less processed than the white sugar. So it's a little bit better. No, the best sugars are molasses or jaggery, because they're not very much processed. Yes. It's not much different than white sugar. It's a little bit better. It's a little bit better, but it's not really good. Yes. Yes, Merle? This is an interesting subject. Everyone's raising their hand, asking questions. Go ahead, Merle. Now, what they do is they purify the sugar through bone meal. So you have to know how they get these things. If you study, like, for example, hydrogenated oils. It's another huge junk food. And almost all Indians cook food in hydrogenated oils. You want to know what a hydrogenated oil is? Huh? Yeah. Okay, give her the microphone. You have the microphone. Speak loudly. You know, because you did research, right? To do your homework. Okay, see, Ria has become really sharp. Go ahead. Wait a minute, it's not on. That's not on. This microphone is not working. Go ahead. Go ahead. Now it's working. Go.
Okay.
I see another one. Go ahead.
Soybean oil, corn oil, safflower oil, canola oil, and peanut oil.
Those are hydrogenated.
Yeah.
But you know what it means, a hydrogenated oil? Is it like a hydrogen bomb or something?
Oils with like a lot of inorganic chemicals.
No. hydrogenated oil is called a altered molecule. An altered molecule. What is an altered molecule? They chemically added or subtracted something from the natural molecule of oil. In this case, they add one atom of hydrogen. And what happens? It becomes shelf-stable. Whereas a normal oil, any vegetable oil, does not stay stable more than 6 months, and then it goes rancid. R-A-N-C-I-D. Rancid means it goes bad. You can't use it anymore, otherwise you get very sick. So, 60, 70, 80 years ago, when they invented hydrogenated oils, actually it was before that, in the 1930s, I think. Hydrogenated oil is shelf-stable, whereas normal oils, vegetables, are only stable for 6 months maximum, even less than that, right? And they go rancid, they go bad, and if you eat it, you get sick. So in order to be able to sell oils and make them stable for at least 10 years, they alter the molecule of the oil. And that's called hydrogenated oils. Now, Indians in India were convinced about 60 years ago that you should never use ghee or coconut oil for cooking because it causes heart attacks. You should only use hydrogenated oils so that the oil companies can become rich and the people can get sick. That's why so many people in India have diabetes and high blood pressure. Why? Do you know anybody in your family has diabetes? A grandmother or somebody? Huh? You do? Yeah. Anybody else have parents or grandparents that have diabetes? Raise your hands. Okay. Yeah, now, why is that? Because when you cook with hydrogenated oils, when you eat food that's cooked with hydrogenated oils, when that hydrogenated oil goes into your body doesn't know what it is. This is a stranger. So they don't know what to do with it. So it goes into your bloodstream and it begins to clog your arteries. And when your arteries start to get clogged, your blood pressure goes up because your heart has to beat harder to push the blood through your arteries and veins. And then later on, because the heart is pushing so hard, eventually it weakens and you have a heart attack. And so a lot of things happen when you eat hydrogenated oils. And it can also be the cause of diabetes. That's why there's an epidemic of diabetes in India today. It's an epidemic proportion. That means a lot of people get diabetes. And a lot of people have high blood pressure in India. And in America also. So for about 60 years, they advertise that hydrogenated oils are good for you and ghee and coconut oil is bad for you. So everybody switched to hydrogenated oils. And by the way, they're cheaper also. And recently, in the last, I think, 10 years, the FDA, or the Federal Department of Agriculture, or the whatever, announced that don't eat hydrogenated oils. It's bad for you. Don't put your finger in your mouth. Go wash your hand. So now a lot of people can't use hydrogenated oils. Like we can't use hydrogenated oils for our festivals because it's a public event and they're not allowed anymore. Okay? So this whole issue is about shelf-stable food. Shelf-stable food, right? Because if you go into, like for example, if you go into the Safeway and you pass the meat counter and all the meat is gray and black, would you think it's good or bad? Right. But actually it's fire engine red, right? So, but if you kill an animal and cut it open, in about 1 or 2 days, the meat would go gray. And if you cut a potato and leave it exposed to the air, it'll go gray. Right? That's called oxidation. So how come the meat is red, and oftentimes the meat has been cut and killed, the animal's been killed for at least a month before the meat comes to the store? How do they keep it red? Yes, Shaitan. Yeah. What's that? What'd you say? Give him the microphone so I can hear what he says. Yeah.
So for the color, I think they use like not natural color. It's like the color that was preserved with like not artificial colors. And then for preserving, I think they use salt.
No. Well, you can preserve with salt. That's called kosher meat. But yes, Merle.
They add artificial colors.
No, but sometimes they do. But that's not the way they do it. No. Well, they use a technique called embalming. embalming. Embalming is what they do when a person dies and they go into the mortuary or the funeral home, and they take all the blood out and they put in chemicals like formaldehyde, and it makes the person look almost like they're alive for a short period of time, so that there can be a final viewing of the person, and then they bury the person or burn the body. So they use chemicals. I'm not going to say they use formaldehyde, but they use certain chemicals that keeps the meat red, at least the red meat red. Because if they leave it exposed to the air, it'll become gray and nobody will buy it. They'll think there's something wrong with it. But if it's nice and red, they know, oh, this is fresh. You see? Yes.
So they use the embalming method on meat?
They use chemicals, yeah. The same way that they use chemicals to make a dead body look almost alive for a couple days. Right. All right, so now you see that there's a lot of chemicals and a lot of different techniques used to keep food shelf stable. And you're eating those types of foods. You're looking up the meat? What does it say?
It is myoglobin, the chemical name they use for to keep the meat red.
Okay, so if you can't pronounce it so well, and if you don't understand what it means, it's definitely bad for you. What is myoglobin? Look that up.
This fresh meat in supermarket is red because of a pigment called myoglobin, which stores oxygen in muscle cells.
Okay, now look up myoglobin and see if it's carcinogenic or something like that.
A red protein containing gene which carries and stores oxygen in muscle cells. It is structurally similar to a subunit of hemoglobin.
Of what? Hemoglobin. Okay. Now, is it considered safe to eat? Is it considered safe to eat? It must be, otherwise they wouldn't allow it.
Meat lovers swear by juicy medium rare sweet.
What?
Well, the liquid, like they use it for meat or something.
Yeah.
And it's totally safe to eat.
Probably not, because marijuana is legal and that's not safe to eat.
It's totally safe to smoke, right? What does it say, Prabhu?
So it says myoglobin is an iron and oxygen binding protein found in the muscle tissue of vertebrates.
Vertebrates, that means animals.
vertebrates
that have spinal cords.
in journal and in almost all mammals. It is distinctly related to hemoglobin,
Okay, hemoglobin is the main constituent of blood.
which is the iron and oxygen binding protein in blood,
Okay.
especially in the red blood cells.
Good. Look at it if it's safe to eat. It says it's safe to eat. Okay. Well, that's questionable. But you see, they're playing around with your food. Of course, you don't eat meat, but so many people eat meat. And they have to do it so that it looks okay. Because if they don't do that, then it'll turn gray, and it's not. No one would buy it. No one would buy a piece of red meat that's gray. They think it's old. And so the whole point is to keep food shelf stable. Okay, so why did we discuss this? Because oftentimes they use chemicals. Well, this myoglobin, is it made artificially, or is it extracted from animals in the slaughterhouse? That's the other thing you have to look at. How do they get it? Is it made chemically? Renal means the kidneys. Okay, the one downside of it could cause kidney disease. Yes.
But then it said it was totally safe to eat.
There's no such thing as totally safe to eat when it's a... But how do they make it? Do they make it, or do they get it naturally?
It says myoglobin, the natural form of pigment, is purplish.
No, but that doesn't mean they get it naturally. Do they make it synthetically, or do they get it naturally?
No direct answer, I'm just accepting.
You see, if they make it synthetically, then again you're eating something that's not natural. And but because they say it naturally occurs in animal flesh, right? So why do they have to put more of it in to keep the meat red? What's it say? No direct answer. That's right. You see. So.
It says many models of myoglobin have been synthesized as part of
Well, let's read. Oh, give him the microphone. He's got the answer. Good. Give him the microphone.
Synthesized.
Go ahead.
Many of them have been synthesized.
Go ahead.
Many models of myoglobin have been synthesized as part of a broad interest in transition metal dioxygen complexes. A well-known.
Say that again. You're not speaking clearly.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Many models of myoglobin have been synthesized as part of a broad interest in
Broad what?
interest.
Interest.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In transition metal dioxygen complexes.
Dioxygen. Oh my God. Okay, you say that it's synthetic myoglobin. It's not natural. And synthetic myoglobin has problems. Like it could cause kidney failure. If your kidney fails, if you don't get a new kidney from a dead body, you die. It's very serious. Kidney failure is a very serious thing. So, this is the dilemma. This is the problem with industrially produced food. What are you doing, Prabhu? Show everybody what you just did. Everybody look at Prabhuji. Go ahead, open up. Stop. Do you do that in class, in school also? No? Why not? Why do you do it here? What? Oh, okay. Yeah. Do other kids yawn also in class? They just open their mouth? What? In the class. Okay. All right. So, see, now we just did some seminal research. What does that mean, seminal research? It means fundamental research, right? We were all convinced at one point that what's the name of that thing again? Myoglobin was a natural thing, and it's okay to eat it because it says it's okay to eat, right? We read that. But then we did some more research and we found out that it's most probably synthetically made and it may cause kidney failure. You see? So the more you dig into these industrial foods, the more you realize that I shouldn't eat anything like that because I'm putting poisonous substances into my body. Right? And the worst thing is Halloween candy. Halloween, like M&M. Put your hand over your mouth. No, you just open your mouth to yawn. No, he did. He's looking at you as if you did it, but he did it. You did it. You just open your mouth to yawn. Put your hand over your mouth. Yeah, when you yawn. Right? Nobody wants to see your tonsils. Okay, so when you eat these industrially produced foods, there are often dangerous molecules in them for preservation or for other things. And those dangerous molecules will subvert your health. What does that mean? Subvert, S-U-B-V-E-R-T. Subvert. Yes. Augustia, the Walking Dictionary. What does it mean? Yes, but subvert means undermine the power and authority of an established system. So it undermines the power of digestion and assimilation of food. Okay?
Undermine the power or authority.
Well, that's, yeah, but I'm extending it to a particular use here. Upset, wreck, invalidate, depress, undermine. It means all these things. So it undermines or destroys your power of digestion. Okay? All right, so you finished? Go ahead. Give her the microphone.
Potassium bromate.
What?
Potassium bromate.
What?
Potassium bromate. I don't know how to say.
How to see?
Potassium.
Potassium bromate.
No, it's potash. I don't know.
Potassium?
Potassium bromate.
That's another preservative.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Increases volume in white flour, breads, and rolls. It's known to cause cancer at animals, and small amounts in bread can create a risk for humans.
Can what?
Create a risk for humans.
A risk. That means
Yeah.
you risk your life if you eat it.
Yeah.
Potassium bromate.
Potassium bromate. Go ahead.
Magnesium carbonate is an inorganic chemical found in salt. Okay, and the next question was, what inorganic chemicals do you find in food that you eat every day? I found a pretty big list, but I can't write them all. So the vegetable oils, which include soybean oil, corn oil, safflower oil, canola oil, and peanut oil.
They all have altered molecules, hydrogenated oils.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, next.
There are also a lot of chemicals in snacks. Chemicals like
Snacks.
snacks.
How many eat snacks? Here, raise your hand. Snacks. Who eats snacks? Everybody eats snacks. Okay, go ahead. Let's hear the bad news about snacks.
Chemicals like disodium inosinate, disodium guanylate, enriched flour, and olestra.
And what? Last thing?
Olestra.
Olestra.
Yeah. Magnesium sulfate is used in tofu and can cause cancer to some animals.
Who eats tofu? Okay, there you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's enough. Okay, anybody else do their homework? Arush, did you do your homework? What? Yeah. Go ahead.
Like he answered the question you didn't answer.
The question was, so read Bhagavad Gita 3.14 and explain how grains, rains, sacrifice, and prescribed duties gives you natural gifts. Answer. As per Bhagavad Gita 3.14, it states, food, grains are produced from rains. Rains are produced from performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. We are fully dependent on food of grains or vegetables, even meat eaters. The animals they eat are dependent on grains, and if the animals don't eat the grains, then the meat eaters won't be able to eat meat. Lord will be pleased by sacrifices. In the age of Kali Yuga, the prescribed yajna or sacrifice is Sankirtana yajna. If we will perform Nagar Sankirtana, there will be no scarcity of food supply.
What? Perform
Scarcity.
Sankirtan what?
There will be no scarcity of food supply.
Very good. That's it? You only did one. Okay, next, who else? Okay, all right, go ahead. Shivani? Oh, you did homework? Okay, go ahead. You can. And the next is Shivani next to you. Okay. Go ahead.
So the question was, where do inorganic chemicals come from? They come from pigments are classified as either organic, derived from plant or animal sources, or inorganic, devised from salts or metallic oxides.
Oxidized.
Oxides. Oxides. And then, what was the history of inorganic chemicals?
Yes.
They have been known and used since antiquity. Probably the oldest is the deep blue pigment called the Prussian blue. However,
Blue is a pigment, a colorant.
it's blue.
Yeah.
However, the chemical nature of these substances were unknown until the late 19th and early 20th century, when the modern field of coordination chemistry emerged.
Okay. That's it? Yeah. The inorganic chemicals, it's a longer history than that, but that's all right. You tried. Next, Shivani.
Back there. Mark, I didn't do it so detailed.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we had to read 3.14 and then explain.
Speak louder.
We had to read 3.14 and explain the process of grains, rains, and sacrifice. So, when Lord Krishna is worshipped, the demigods who are in the different limbs of the Lord are also automatically worshipped. Therefore, there's no separate need to worship the demigods. Basically, we don't really need to perform sacrifices for other demigods. We can just worship Krishna and that'd be the same. And then devotees of the Lord.
How come they worship the demigods in the other Hindu temples?
They want material needs.
Yeah, so it's just like if you, let's say there's the President of the United States, okay? And then there are ministers, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of social services, minister of this, minister of that. So instead of going to the president and asking him for favors, people go to the ministers because it's easier to see the minister than it is to see the president. Right? So people, instead of going to Krishna, they go to the demigods and ask for material benefits. Like, for example, let's say you go fishing in Lake Sammamish and you throw your fish net, you throw your fish line out with a hook and a bait, and you say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari, Hari Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari. Please, Krishna, give me a fish. Do you think Krishna is going to give you a fish? No. Why not?
First of all, he doesn't accept, second of all, it's a material thing.
And is it good for you if you catch a fish and eat it? No. So why would Krishna give it to you? So therefore, people want to catch fish. They don't say, Hare Krishna, give me a fish. They say, Oh, Durga Mata, please give me a fish. So why do they go to Durga Mata instead of Krishna? Because the demigods will often give you your material desires. Of course, they can't do it unless Krishna gives it to them. But people go to the demigods for material desires. You see? Krishna will not help. I mean, Krishna will help you to a degree to get material desires, but it's not enough for the materialists. They want more and more and more. So therefore they go regularly do worship of the demigods for continual material advancement. Go ahead.
Devotees of the Lord who are in Krishna consciousness offer food to Krishna and then eat, a process which nourishes the body spiritually. By such action, not only are past sinful reactions in the body vanquished, but the body becomes immunized to all contamination of material nature. Basically, what this excerpt is saying is that if you offer food to Krishna, it purifies your body spiritually. And then the Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. The Lord can be satisfied with sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. That is the law of nature.
What does scarcity mean?
It's like not having.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a very short supply, not enough to satisfy your needs. Yeah.
Thank you. Yajna, specifically Sankirtana Yajna prescribed for this age, must therefore be performed to save us at least from scarcity of food supply. Therefore, so that means we just have to perform Yajna for Krishna to be satisfied.
Yes.
Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend.
Which Yajna?
Sankirtan.
Yes.
Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of the field and not the production of big factories. The field production is due to sufficient rain from the sky, and such rains are controlled by demigods like Indra, sun, moon, etc. And they are all servants of the Lord. So if we want like grains, we have to be dependent on the fields, and those are all.
This is why in India, traditionally, the farmers would do Agnihotra every day, and they would do a fire sacrifice every day before they work, and chant the Vedic mantras, and chant Hare Krishna also, so that Krishna would be pleased and the devas would be pleased, and they would be able to get nice harvests. And obviously it worked because you have 1 billion Indians. Obviously they didn't starve, right? Otherwise you wouldn't have 1 billion Indians today, over 1 billion, right? So that system of worshiping Krishna and pleasing the devas worked. People they had enough food to feed. They have enough food to feed 1 billion people. How many people live in the United States? 300 million. So India has over 3 times the population of the United States. and they're able to feed their people. They don't have to import food. You see, China has to import food. China imports a lot of food from the United States. Yeah.
Doesn't it have like mostly like rocky things?
Who? No, they have some good land. I mean, they grow also, but there's a lot of environmental damage to their land. Just like the Dust Bowl in the United States, they have problems like that. Anyway, okay, go ahead.
Next homework was to read the Isha Upanishad Mantra 14 and then explain how to pacify nature.
Yes.
So it says, they start varieties of public and semi-governmental institutions to tackle the devastating power of nature, but they don't know how to pacify insurmountable nature. Many men are advertised as great scholars of the Bhagavad Gita, but they overlook the Gita's message, by which material nature can be pacified. Powerful nature can be pacified by...
First of all, what does the word pacify mean?
Like when a baby's crying, you like pacify them to make them
peaceful.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, no hurricanes, no earthquakes, and so forth.
Yeah. Powerful nature can be pacified only by the awakening of God consciousness, as clearly pointed out in Bhagavad Gita 7.14. So we can only pacify nature if we're all Krishna consciousness, if we're all in Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah. Then
You're actually practicing, not. Yeah, I'm Krishna conscious, but I never come to the temple. I don't do any service. I just come to talk to my friends, and then I go away, and I'm interested in the classes. And I'm not really interested. But I go there because my parents are Krishna conscious. So then there'll be scarcity in that person's life. Right? Yeah. You have to actually practice Krishna consciousness. Practicing means you're actually chanting, you're actually doing devotional service, you're actually waking up early and all these things. It's not that, oh yeah, I'm Krishna conscious. Well, my parents are Krishna conscious. I'm not really Krishna conscious. I just spend all my time on the internet and social media, and I just do the minimum, you know. I come on Jan Mastabi and Gaur Purnima, that's about it, you know. Every twice a year I played a mridanga, you know. Okay, go ahead.
The next part of the homework was to explain inorganic compounds. So organic compounds contain carbon and contain other elements found in other organisms, and inorganic compounds don't usually contain carbon. And something something that both of them have in common are chemical compounds made of combinations of elements.
Yes.
Okay.
Inorganic compounds. There are some organic compounds that are not actually living, you know.
Yeah.
But most inorganic compounds are from living entities. Like your body is a factory producing chemicals. What are some of the chemicals your body produces? Arush, you know any? Yes.
Insulin.
That's one. Yes. Yeah. What? That's one. Yes.
Carbon dioxide.
That's one. Yeah. Any others? How about saliva? How about tears? How about wax in the ears? How about blood? Well, you said hemoglobin. How about stool? How about urine? How about plasma? How about bone? How about bone marrow? I mean, we can go down the list. There's thousands of chemical things that your body produces. Huh? What? New cells. Yeah. Your body is a chemical factory. It's producing all kinds of chemicals. Yes, Murli. Huh? You were just scratching your head or what? Okay. So your body is a chemical factory. It's producing all kinds of things, right? And most of those things are organic chemicals. Okay. Next. Go ahead.
Okay. So here are some examples of inorganic compounds: aluminum sulfate, ammonia, ammonium nitrate, ammonium sulfate, carbon black, chlorine, hydrochloric acid, hydrogen peroxide, nitric acid, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphoric acid, sodium carbonate, sodium chloride.
So your body also produces hydrochloric acid.
Yeah. Sodium chloride, sodium hydroxide, sodium silicate, sodium sulfate.
So hydrogen, if you're in a chemistry class and the person that's next to you pours some hydrochloric acid on your hand, what would happen? Huh? It would burn really bad. Or if they threw it in your eyes, you would go blind, right? But yet, your body produces hydrochloric acid. Why? It's used to digest proteins. But if they put it on your hand, it would burn your hand. How come it doesn't burn your stomach? Huh? What? It has what? Yeah, because your body also produces mucus to protect the lining of your intestinal tract and your stomach especially from being burned by the hydrochloric acid. But if you don't produce enough mucus, then it can burn your stomach, and then you'll get ulcers and holes in your intestine. And if there's holes in your intestine, what happens? You get a disease called sepsis, which means you could die very easily because all those contaminants in the intestine go into your bloodstream.
Can you cure these types of things like no mucus?
Yes. You can stop eating junk food. It's caused by junk food. Junk food means foods that are very difficult or impossible to digest. You keep eating enough junk food and you'll get all kinds of intestinal problems, and the worst problem is when you have holes in your intestine, then all the toxins in the stool and urine goes into your blood, and you could die in a matter of minutes. You can die in a matter of minutes. So you have to be careful. See, what do they do if there are holes in your intestine? You know what they do, the doctors? They cut your intestines out. And then you have to have a bag here, a plastic bag, and stool and urine goes into that. You see, and once you get that bag, you don't live very long, and life is really horrible. There are a lot of people end up with a bag because they're eating so much junk food; it ruins their whole intestinal tract. Right? And imagine what happens if you smoke. Don't put your fingers in your mouth. Imagine what happens if you smoke. Recently, there was a doctor that was somebody died, and they were going to take their lungs out and put it into another man whose lungs were damaged. But when they took the lungs out, the guy was a smoker. They were black. And they took a picture of the lungs. They were black, and the doctor rejected the lungs. They threw them away. They couldn't use them. You know anybody that smokes at your school? You ever see anybody that smokes? Huh? You see people that smoke? Not in your school? Anybody vap in your school? Yeah, that's just as bad as smoking. So, by doing those things, you put things unnatural into your lungs, and then it causes damage. And eventually your lungs will deteriorate. And if you don't have the lungs that work, what happens? You can't breathe, you die. The vaping is more dangerous than smoking. Did you know that?
That was made to like.
Huh?
Was it made to like make smokers stop?
Yeah, and then they claim that vaping is better than smoking. But actually it's more dangerous, especially when you vape and you're smoking in strawberry flavored or pineapple flavored or vanilla flavored. They're all chemicals, dangerous chemicals. New York State just outlawed all those fruity flavors for vaping because they're extremely dangerous chemicals. Right. Okay. Anybody getting scared here? Anybody ever vap here? Don't be embarrassed. You can say yes. You ever vap?
Nope.
Okay. You ever vap? Yeah. Any of the girls ever vap? You're lucky. Do you know people that vap in your school? He got expelled? For vaping or for something else? Vaping. Okay. All right. So now, you finished or you have more?
I have more.
Go ahead.
We were supposed. Sorry. We were supposed to. I said Om.
Okay.
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 We were supposed to explain the cause of the Dust Bowl. I couldn't. I just found this website. So it says, the Dust Bowl was caused by several economic and agricultural factors, including federal land policies, changes in regional weather, farm economics, and other cultural factors.
But the main thing was the farming tactics.
Yeah. After the Civil War, a series of federal land acts coaxed pioneer westward.
That means that people started moving from the east coast of the United States to the west coast, and they went through the middle of the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. And many people stayed in the middle. They didn't even go to the west coast.
By incentivization.
That means they got benefits if they were willing to leave the east coast and go to west to populate the west, because the United States wanted to own all that land in the continent of the United States. So, but they needed people to live there, and they needed to push the Indians out and push the French out and push the Russians out, because they were Russians, they were French, and they were Mexicans that were in the western parts of what's called the United States today. And so in order to have a majority population of American citizens in those lands, they incentivized the people. That means they gave them benefits. Like, for example, the farm that I have was part of a homestead. So this one man came from the East Coast all the way to Washington State, all the way to what's called Redmond today. And I saw the document. Ulysses S. Grant, who was the President of the United States, gave this man and his family 160 acres of land for free. And my 10 acres was part of that homestead. And he had rights, that family had rights to minerals in the ground and water in the ground. So today, you do not have the right to extract minerals or water from the ground. Do you know that? In Washington State, there are laws now that prohibit you. If you have gold in your property in the ground, it doesn't belong to you. But 150 years ago, if you came west, the government gave you the right to minerals and water in the ground. So if you had land and there was minerals, there was gold, it was your gold, 100%. But today, they won't allow you, they won't let you have it. If you take the gold out and you don't declare it, they'll prosecute you. Yes.
Wait, why did they make that law?
Because they're greedy. The government's greedy.
So they get the gold.
They get the gold.
Do they give you any money for giving them the gold?
I'm not sure. They may. Okay, go ahead.
By incentivizing farmers in the Great Plains, the Homestead Act of 1862, which provided settlers with 160 acres of public land.
See? That's what I said, right?
Yeah. 160 acres of public land was followed by the Kincaid Act of 1904, the Enlarged Homestead Act of 1909. These acts led to massive influx of new and inexperienced farmers across the Great Plains.
The Great Plains, meaning the middle of the United States, where the buffaloes and animals were pooping for hundreds and thousands of years, and all that poop composted naturally, and there was very good topsoil. So whatever you planted grew very well.
Yeah. Many of these late 19th and early 20th century settlers lived by the superstition, rain follows a plow. Immigrants, land speculators, politicians, and even some scientists believed that homesteading and agriculture would permanently affect the climate and semi-arid Great Plains region, making it more conducive to farming.
What? And what? So some people thought that, by giving the land to homesteaders, they would ruin it? Is that what it says?
They believed that homesteading and agriculture would permanently affect the climate of the semi-arid Great Plains region, making it more conducive to farming.
Okay, but the opposite happened.
Yes.
Okay, because they didn't practice good farming techniques.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyone else do the homework? Okay, but she's next. Yeah. Yeah, she's next. Go ahead, hurry up.
So the first homework was explain the process of grain, rain, sacrifice, and prescribed duties, and how grains are made. So to get grains, one has to do their prescribed duty, that is sacrifice, and for the age of Kali, sacrifice is Sankirtan Yajna.
Yeah.
And when Lord Krishna is pleased, the demigods are automatically pleased and give us our rain to grow our crops and get grains. And
yeah, so the sequence is rain, grain, sacrifice, prescribed duties, or prescribed duties, sacrifice, rain, grain. Okay.
And the second homework, and then there's two examples of. So sacrifice is work meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu.
Yes.
And for this age, it's Sankirtan Yajna. And there's two examples of this. So in Govardhan, they used to do yajnas to get rain. And in Fiji, Tamal Krishna, I think there was a drought problem, and Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj went there and did kirtan, and there was rain there.
Okay. Very good.
The second homework, I didn't do it, but the third homework was what is inorganic chemistry. So inorganic chemistry is the study of the formation and synthesis and the properties of a compound, and they do not have carbon and hydrogen bonds, whereas organic chemistry has the bond of hydrogen and carbon.
Yeah.
And inorganic chemicals are non-bio or non-degradable. So
not easily biodegradable.
Yeah. So if you
that means that if you make an inorganic chemical, like for example an isotope of uranium, it could take 10,000 years for it to break down and not be radioactive. 10,000 years. Imagine how much that contaminates the environment, right? And that's only one inorganic chemical. And there's thousands of inorganic chemicals that are being produced in factories. So, and many of them are extremely toxic. Extremely toxic. Go ahead.
So if you drop a plastic bag on the floor, it will stay there the same for 50 years later?
Yeah, it won't break down for 50 years.
And
Plastic bag.
inorganic chemistry was made in the 1900s, and the father of inorganic chemistry is Friedrich Wöhler.
A
And
German. Right?
yeah,
Friedrich Müller, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
and number 4 was to explain some that we eat.
The inorganic chemical started before that. It started in the 16th century, 16th, 17th century. Go ahead. Anyway, let's go ahead.
And some that we eat are sodium chloride and table salt, and food coloring. And there's chlorine in our water that we
And fluorine.
yeah.
Sammamish water has chlorine and fluorine. That's why I'm gonna buy a very good water purifier for the temple, because it's not good drinking that water.
And when we put like air fresheners in our car, they also have
Chemicals.
chemicals. And I got some examples from your Anand Mela booklet.
Yeah.
So there was toilet bowl cleaner, antibacterial soaps, chlorine, and then there's this chemical. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's DITHYL.
Diethylpropylene.
Yeah, it's in plastic, and there's like other food colorings like yellow 5, it's in candy, drinks, and cocktails, and red 40 is one of the most common ones in our candy, cherries, and Gatorade.
And what is it made of?
I'm not sure.
Beetles.
Yeah,
Not the band Beatles, but
yeah.
the bug beetles.
And it was banned in the 1990s. After 8 years of debate, they got it back for our candy, and
They put it back?
yeah. And then there's high fructose corn syrup, and there's in like almost all sweet packaged food. And preservatives are almost in everything. And then there's potassium sorbate. There's in like they're in like candy bars and
Yeah.
the artificial flavored fruit bars.
Yes.
And oxides. And some examples of inorganic chemistry are
Inorganic chemistry.
Yeah. They're in acids, bases, salts, oxides.
Okay.
And the fifth one, what was the Dust Bowl? So I studied the Dust Bowl in 5th grade. It was caused by high temperature, mainly because of the smoke and smoke caused from the factories and poor agriculture. So they didn't really take care of their soil very
Poor
well.
agriculture, yes. Bad techniques of agriculture.
And there was wind erosion.
Basically, they took out from the earth. They didn't put back any. They didn't put back anything.
Yeah.
Now, you see, nature naturally does that. It's called the carbon cycle. So this is your homework for next week. Explain what the carbon cycle is in nature. CARBON, carbon cycle. And then you'll see, by studying carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, you don't have to do the nitrogen cycle, but I'm just going to give you an idea. Carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, phosphorus cycle, water cycle, wind cycle, and so forth. There are many cycles in nature, all established by Krishna, and that keeps the earth pure. The atmosphere, the water, the earth itself pure. And that's why, like when the pilgrims and the settlers first came to the United States, there were trees from the East Coast to the West Coast. There were trees everywhere. Now, trees are plants, right? And some of those trees were like 5,000 years old, like the sequoia trees and other trees. They're plants. Now, how did they get so big? There was nobody watered them, no one fertilized them, no one put pesticides on them, and there were trees all across the United States. How did that happen? Due to the carbon cycle and other cycles. So the type of growing I do is called no dig, no plow growing. And I work with the carbon cycle, where you don't have to plow, you don't have to dig, and you keep making compost, and every year you compost You put the compost on your land and it builds up the topsoil. That's the carbon cycle. Now you have to learn what the carbon cycle is. That's your homework. You have to study it. That's real agriculture. Whereas using pesticides, using fertilizers, they're artificial fertilizers. It's called NPK. Write that down. NPK. You have to find out what NPK fertilizer is. NPK. These are all things that are used in modern industrial production of food. And because of that, the food is nutrient depleted. What does that mean, nutrient depleted, Arush? Yeah, there's very few nutrients in the food. So it looks good, and you eat it, but you never get satisfied because you don't get the proper vitamins and minerals because they're depleted. And what happens is you just always feel hungry. You keep eating. You get fat, and you don't even know why. It's because you're eating constantly nutrient-depleted food. Okay. So, now, anybody else do their homework didn't get a chance to read? Okay, go ahead, Prabhu. Go ahead. And last is Murli. Go ahead.
The first question was, read Bhagavad Gita 3.14 and explain how grains, rain, sacrifice are prescribed duties, and prescribed duties gives you natural prosperity and natural gifts. Food, grains, or vegetables are eatables. The human being eats different kinds of food, grains, vegetables, fruits, etc. And the animals eat the refuse of the food, grains, and vegetables, grass, plants, etc. Human beings who are accustomed to eating meat and flesh must also depend on the production of vegetables and vegetation in order to eat the animals. Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of the field and not on the production of the big factories.
Good.
So we get the natural prosperity and natural gifts by eating Krishna prasadam and by doing and performing sacrifices.
Which sacrifice?
Huh?
What sacrifice? Which one?
Sankirtan Yajna.
Yes.
Okay. The Supreme Lord, who's known as Yajna Purusha, is the master of all the demigods, who serve him as the different limbs of the body serve the whole. Demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna are the appointed officers who manage material affairs. And Vedas direct sacrifices to satisfy these demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air, light, and water sufficiently to produce food, grains. And Lord Krishna is worshipped. The demigods, who are different limbs of the Lord, are also automatically worshipped. Therefore, there is no separate and need to worship the demigods. For this reason, the devotees of the Lord who are in Krishna consciousness offer food to Krishna and then eat the prasadam, a process which nourishes the body spiritually. By such action, not only are past sinful reactions in the body vanquished, but the body becomes immunized to all contamination of material nature.
A very important point.
When
The body becomes immunized from all contamination of material nature. That means even though you're surrounded by inorganic chemicals that are toxic, by following Krishna consciousness, you will not be affected by it. Because first of all, you're not going to eat any junk food. You can't offer junk food to Krishna. And you're not going to, and you're going to be aware, just like now, we're becoming aware of all these inorganic, dangerous chemicals and preservatives. Yes?
So like bars and like chips and like stuff like that.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, all the good stuff. You can't offer that to Krishna.
Not if you want to try and poison Krishna. Of course, Krishna can't get poisoned, but you know, he's not going to accept it. What does Krishna accept? What did Prabhupada eat? He didn't eat chips and all those other things that you just described. He ate, chickpeas and rotis and fresh vegetables and things like that. And he insisted on the devotees to get farms so that they could grow their own vegetables and get their own milk. See, he wanted that. And that's why we have a farm. That's why we have our own milk. Milk is the number one superfood. Okay, so second homework, you have 1 second before you finish. Second homework, read chapter 3, verse number 15, and explain the importance of doing yajna. Chapter 3, verse number 15, and do some research and explain the benefits of doing yajna, the importance of it and the benefits of it. So you have to do a little research to find out what the benefits are. I'll give you a hint. You would have to read more verses in this chapter, up to yes, so you have to read you would have to read 3:11 also to understand specifically the benefits of doing yajna. That you have to read that purport to that verse, 3:11. So your homework, extra homework, is you read 3:15 and explain the importance of yajna, and then you have to answer a second question, the benefits of doing yajnas, and for that you'd have to read 3:11. Okay? Go ahead, finish.
The Lord can be sacrificed by sacrifices, satisfied by sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. That is the law of nature. Yajna, specifically the Sankirtan Yajna, prescribed for this age, must therefore be performed to save at least save us at least from scarcity of food supply.
Very good. Anything else?
That's the second question.
Huh?
The second question.
Okay, go ahead.
Read Ishopanishad Mantra 14 and explain how to pacify nature. In this mantra, Upanishad teaches that one must perfectly know both Sambhuti and Vinasha side by side. By knowing the material manifestation alone, one cannot be saved. For in the course of nature, there's devastation at every moment. Nor can one be saved from these devastations by opening of hospitals, by scientific research, etc.
What was that last word?
Huh?
What was the last word?
Scientific research.
Okay.
One can be saved only by complete knowledge of the eternal life of bliss and awareness. The whole Vedic scheme is meant to educate men in this art of attaining eternal life. So
Yes.
to pacify the powerful
That's a good
nature.
point. That's the whole purpose of Vedic yajnas, to attain eternal life. Go ahead.
So to pacify the powerful nature, awakening of the consciousness of the Lord is the best way.
Okay.
Number
Practicing Krishna consciousness is the best way to pacify nature. Yes.
Number 3. Read about the origins of inorganic chemicals. Look about the history of how they came about. Pigments are classified as either organic, which are derived from plant or animal sources, or inorganic, derived from salt or metallic oxides. Inorganic compounds are used as catalysts, pigments, coatings, surface tints, medicines, fuels, and more. They're found in They're found in the middle of 3,300 BC to 1,200 BC.
What happened in that period?
They were found at that period.
Okay.
The inorganic chemicals.
The organic or inorganic?
Inorganic.
Yeah. See, the history of inorganic chemistry is long. Go ahead. And most of the things they found were toxic. Go ahead.
Okay. Also the period of the gold rush. Artificial food color, additives, and glucose preservatives are some of the inorganic chemicals.
Yes. Okay, so now, Agastya, tell me what the homework is.
Explain what the carbon cycle is, find out what the NPK fertilizer is, and read Bhagavad Gita 3.15 and 3.11 and explain the importance and benefits of yajna.
Perfect. Everybody have that? Yes? You got that, Arush? You have that? You got that, Advitya? Yes? Okay. Oh, you did your homework. Okay, let's hear your homework. Hurry up. Read. Give him the microphone. Give Advitya the microphone.
The first question was, read Bhagavad Gita 3.14, explain grains, rains, sacrifice, and prescribed duties. Everybody subsists on food grains. Food grains are produced by rains. Rains are produced by yajna, which is sacrifice, and yajna is born from prescribed duties.
Good.
In this age, the prescribed duties is Sankirtan yajna.
Haribol.
The second question was, read Mantra 14 in Isha Upanishad and explain how to pacify nature. The demigods control nature. If we pray to the demigods, they will keep the nature pacified for us, but they are temporary. We have to pray to Krishna to make him happy, and if Krishna is happy, demigods are also happy and will pacify nature for us.
Haribol. Good. What does pacify mean? Make nature angry?
Like calm. Like
Yes. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Go ahead. Come on. That's it. Okay, very good. All right. Haribol. Gorja Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Oh, wait a minute. We forgot.
I did my homework too.
Murli, go ahead.
Okay, I'm done.
No, you're not. Sit down. Go ahead, Murli.
3.14 says, all living bodies.
Speak into the microphone.
All living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performing yajnas, sacrifices, and yajnas is born of prescribed duties.
Very good.
So if you chant, Krishna is happy, and then Krishna asks the demigods to send rains, and then if the rains fall, then the grains will grow, and then all of us can eat the grains.
Haribol. So Krishna must be happy in Washington State. Look at all the rain we have. Go ahead. That's it? Okay. And then Krishna 1. Okay, let's hear it. I want to hear it. Take the microphone. And hurry up because Krishna 2 is hungry.
Yeah, Krishna, whatever his name is. Okay. So the first one was read Bhagavad Gita 3.14 and explain the process of rains, grains, sacrifice, and prescribed duties. So all living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced for performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. Here, in 3.14, it explains that prescribed duties are the starting point to gaining food, grains, and rains. It explains that from prescribed duties comes yajna, from yajna comes rain, and finally food grains come from the rains. The rains and food grains give you natural prosperity and natural gifts. There are the gifts that you acquire naturally if you follow Krishna consciousness properly. The second one, Ishopanishad Mantra 14, page 107, explain how to pacify nature. In Ishopanishad Mantra 14 it says, powerful nature can be pacified only by the awakening of God consciousness, as clearly pointed out in the Bhagavad Gita 7.14. You can only pacify nature by understanding that there is a God above all of us. In Bhagavad Gita 7.14, it explains, this divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. This means whoever surrenders to Krishna can easily overcome material nature.
Very good.
Research about inorganic chemicals. Inorganic chemicals are man-made, and chemicals that contain no carbon. They're very toxic and can take a long time to break down into a normal chemical. And then I didn't do the what did I eat because I just couldn't find them. Find out the Dust Bowl in the find out what it was.
Microphone.
Find out what the Dust Bowl in the 1930s was. The Dust Bowl was a time of severe dust storms that highly impacted the ecology and agriculture of America. The Dust Bowl killed the crops that kept the soil in place, and when the winds blew, it made huge dust clouds that you can't breathe in.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
Haribo. Okay, everyone has their homework.
Yes.
Don't vap